Today I'm going to be showing you how to modify these 5 most common yoga poses that you may have seen. Downward facing dog, child's pose, Savasana, Chaturanga, and the cross-legged seated position. So go onto your mat, grab your props, and let's begin. Okay, so the most common yoga pose is downward facing dog, and I see plenty of people doing this one wrong. And it's no fault of their own, they're just trying to do the pose, but maybe they didn't know these variations. So I'm going to show you now how you can change up this pose to suit your particular body. Now in downward facing dog, we want our hands shoulder width, our feet hips distance. You lift your knees up off the ground, bring your chest back towards your thighs and lift your bum up to the sky. Now notice just doing that, my knees are still bent and there's length in my spine. So what a lot of people do is they will try to get their heels down to the ground and their back starts to round because they're really lengthening through the back of the legs. So we don't want this. We want our spine nice and lengthened. So it's as if you're pushing your chest back towards your knees. So notice how when I do that, my knees start to bend because I haven't got the flexibility in the backs of my legs yet. So bend your knees. There's no law in yoga saying that you have to have your legs straight here. Bend the knees, push your chest backwards. If you feel comfortable here, you can start to straighten the legs, but make sure that you keep the length in your spine. So bend your knees, stick your bum up, and this would be the variation. Now, another way to do this pose, if you really struggle with that, is up against a wall. So I know this might not be one that you want to do in a yoga class. You don't want to be really getting off your mat, walking to a wall and doing this. So keep your knees bent. But if you're at home, and if you're practicing this pose, feet hips distance, hands on the wall, sink your chest down. You're in exactly the same position. You're just doing it in a different way. You're just stood up. You're still pushing through the chest, pushing your chest backwards. Maybe your hands even slide down the wall. And then you practice here. And eventually you can flip that over and do it on the mat. So that's your variation for downward facing dog. Okay, so for our child's pose, there's a few different ways that you can do this one. Child's pose, closed, your feet are together, your knees are together, you fold over your legs and then your arms come down by the sides, your head rests on the ground. That's one variation. Another one is to keep your big toes together, knees wide, walk your hands forward and then lower your chest to the ground and then relax here. Now, if you would like to try this position but your bum is a lot higher up off your legs, grab a pillow, a cushion, a yoga block, place it between your hips and your bum. That's going to heighten you up, which means you've got more space to fold forward. So you can try it that way. Another way to do this is to place something in front of you. So if your bum does reach your heels, but you still find it difficult to fold forward, lean forward. You can place something underneath your chest to keep you up a little bit higher. The whole point of child's pose is to relax into it. So whatever position you find, make sure that you can relax. I hope that that helps. Okay, now we're going to talk about Savasana, which we are going to be using props for. So if you have props, go and grab them. If you don't have any, I'm going to leave some in the description below of all the ones that I use. So this is a bolster. You can, if you don't have a bolster, you can use pillows, you can use a rolled up blanket, cushions. You're going to place that down and you're going to place that underneath your knees. So you're going to come lay down on your back. And what this does is when your knees are bent, it makes your low back closer to the ground. So when you bring your legs out straight, normally you end up with a gap between your low back and the floor. But when you bend the knees, that gap closes. Oh my goodness, it is really raining out there. And that's too loud. Is that hail? Wowzers. Guys, I'm going to show you this rain because this is just horrendous. I'm going to show you now. Can you see that? Might not look so bad in the camera. Wow. Anyway, I'm just gonna wait for that to quieten down and then I will get back to it. Okay, so you can place the bolster underneath your knees, palms face up, maybe hands on the belly, whatever you'd like here. Another way to do Shavasana, if you want to work on your hip opening, a great one to do is grab your yoga blocks. And again, you can use pillows, cushions. Bring the soles of your feet together, knees wide, place the blocks underneath your knees and lean back. So it's like you're in a reclined butterfly pose. So that is one way. Another way would be to have a block on the highest setting for your head and then a block on the middle setting for behind your chest. Again, you can place a blanket or a cushion over this to make it a little less hard. Lean back onto it and relax here. And again, remember in Shavasana, you don't have to stay in the same pose. So you can always move around if you need to. And another variation is if you can't lay down on your back, because some people find this really uncomfortable, come up just seated, either cross-legged, come onto your knees, sit up on a chair. It really doesn't matter as long as you are closing down the mind and really focusing in on yourself. Okay, so the next pose we're going to do is Chaturanga. So we're going to come into a plank position. I'll do full Chaturanga first and then break it down. So this is your plank position. You lean over your wrists, lower halfway, and then you either slide through to Cobra or just your hands and your feet into Up Dog. I do have a video on this, which I will link above. So if you struggle with Chaturanga, there's a couple of things you can do. You can place some blocks in front of you. Place your hands behind them, come into your plank position, lean over your wrists, lower halfway, let your shoulders rest on your blocks, and then this is how you will know you're in your Chaturanga position. And from there, you can come into Up Dog or Cobra. So it's a great way if you are really practicing lowering down into Chaturanga, use the blocks to help you not get so low. Another variation would be to come into your plank, lower your knees, untuck your toes, lower halfway, this is your Chaturanga, and then again, Cobra or Up Dog. So completely up to you how you like to do that. But that's a great way to make the pose a little bit easier. Just lower your knees and come down that way. There's no right or wrong way. Most yoga teachers will take you through the easier one first and then build up to it, but you don't ever have to do full Chaturanga. There's no yoga police that's gonna come and tell you off because you can't do Chaturanga. Okay, and the final one is sitting cross-legged. Now I know that a few people have a problem with this one. So if you find that sitting cross-legged feels really difficult, you can bring your legs out, feet out a little bit further, see if that helps. You can place something underneath your bum. I'm gonna use my bolster again here. You can place a pillow or a cushion underneath your bum because when your hips are a little bit higher, it's a little bit easier to cross your legs. You can always try that. If sitting cross-legged really doesn't work for you, you can come up onto your knees. And again, if coming up onto your knees doesn't work, place something in between your legs and then sit back on that. You can just come to any comfortable seated position that you feels comfortable for you. So if that's legs out in front, if that's sitting in butterfly, one leg out, one leg in, again, there's no right or wrong. Normally, you come to this pose at the start of a yoga class and the teacher will say, come to a comfortable seated position. So what does that mean? That means anything that's comfortable for you and your particular body. Everybody's different. Find something that works for you. Thank you so much for watching this. Apologies for the rain halfway through. If you found this useful, then I would love it if you could like this video, subscribe, maybe share it with some friends, and I will see you next time.